Justin Fort, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way, all the way. I'm Justin, and I'm here in studio with my sidekick and executive assistant by day, Jennifer.
Good afternoon.
You can call us live at 512-390-1370 or send us your questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. We've got an amazing show for you. We're going to be talking about wills and trusts. Of course, you know these are tools that are commonly used to efficiently transfer wealth amongst the generations to your beneficiaries, your loved ones, and the charities that you care so much about. Perhaps the most important yet least understood relationship, though, that you may not know much about is in this wealth transfer process is between the family, you, and the estate fiduciaries, those that are going to manage your wishes according to the tools that you set up those wills and those trusts. Steve Marken, author of Trustee Handbook, will address this all-important relationship. He's going to show you common mistakes in the wealth transfer process that can be avoided. Steve shares client case stories which show how a properly structured estate can positively transform the lives of its intended recipients. You're going to want to stick around to hear what Steve has to say. We're going to have him here on the show today, and we're going to talk about a lot more. We're going to also talk about 7 common estate planning blunders. I've got an article here from Forbes that we're going to speak with Steve about here in a bit. You know, summertime is usually a time when people like to go on vacation. I know we are. Jennifer, you're going, right?
I am, yes.
Where are you going?
Universal Studios. Take my daughter. She's turning 10.
How fun. How fun. Yeah, we're actually going to go on a Disney cruise. So,
that's fun.
Wow. Yeah, when you get little kids like this is the kind of stuff you do, right?
Yes.
Well, I shouldn't say that because there's probably a lot of folks out there that don't take their kids and they go on these same trips. So I'm sure we're going to have a blast. But anytime I get on a plane or schedule a trip like this, I always think about, do I have my will in place? Do I need to make sure that, you know, the doors are locked? Of course, always the alarm system's on. I might want to tell my neighbor to watch my house, right?
We do.
Just because things can happen. Not that it's likely, but, you know, it reminds us all when we travel that we need to remember where all of our things are and make sure that everything's in place in case, you know, in the low chance that something might happen.
Correct.
You know, with estate planning, often I have people come in and visit with me, and you probably have questions about your estate. Do you need a trust? Do you have to be wealthy to have a trust? Is a will sufficient? Can trust be produced from wills? Well, as you know, I'm not an estate planning attorney, and that's why we want to have professionals here on the show. And we do work with estate planning attorneys here in the local area that can help you for sure to really answer these difficult questions. Real quick story. I had a couple come in. We'll call them Bill and Sally. And they came in a couple months back, and Bill and Sally were in kind of a tight spot. They were looking at being able to retire. They had a lot of questions about Social Security, these normal questions. They didn't have a lot of funds. However, Sally's parents had quite a bit of money that they actually put into a trust. Well, guess what? The trustee was her sister. And there were 3 sisters, so one of her sisters was named the trustee and was responsible for doling out the funds from the trust. And there was a lot of animosity between Sally and her sister. And I only got Sally's perspective. Of course, I didn't see the trust documents. Like I said, I'm not an attorney. But from Sally and Bob's point of view, they felt that the trust assets were not being distributed according to their parents' wishes. And really, rather, there was some kind of sibling rivalry going on. And there was some kind of malintention by the sister and the sister's husband, really. And so I think this is something that a lot of us can clearly understand, that as life progresses, 10 years on, 20 years on after we pass, we may want to believe that our children are going to be best friends for life, right?
Right.
But, you know, life happens, marriage happens, you've got other individuals that maybe you didn't plan for that come onto the scene and start to interject their own opinions and ideas as far as what ought to happen with a trust or these estates. And so there can definitely be a lot of conflict and family pain and sorrow. I knew for Bob and Sally, it was really a tough road for them. They really needed some funds, but they felt that they were really left in the dark and left powerless and felt like the sister had, you know, didn't have their best intentions in mind. So there are solutions to this. There's definitely ways to get around these issues. And that's why We want to visit with Steve Marken today. Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about Steve?
Of course. Steve is the founding principal of Trustee Services Group, an organization which specializes in the counsel and delivery of open architecture, trustee solutions, and services. He's a former attorney and charitable tax planning consultant to the top wealth managers throughout the country. He's a nationally recognized expert in financial and estate plans. He's considered a certified specialist by the American Institute of Philanthropy.
Philanthropy?
Yes,
it's a tough one.
Studies. Yes, it is.
It's a tough one.
Presenter before state bar trusts and estate sections, estate planning councils, regional and national plan giving conferences, CPA conferences on estate planning, and Financial Planners Association meetings. Steve and his wife Valerie reside in Monument, Colorado, with their 3 children and Australian Terrier.
Welcome, Steve. How you doing?
Good, Justin. Thank you, Jennifer, also for that introduction. Pleasure to be with you.
You have a lot going on, Steve. It's a mouthful.
I do, and I've got kids as well, 15, 13, and 10. So I'm burning it at all ends, just like you guys.
Oh, goodness. Yes. Well, that's the joy and struggle of life, right?
Right.
Well, we are so excited to have you on, Steve. I know so many folks out there really got a lot of questions about estate planning issues, and we know the statistics are pretty bad. Something like 64% of Americans don't have a basic will, and this is from this Forbes article that I talked about just briefly in the beginning, 7 common estate planning blunders. Real quick, Steve, we're going to get into some of these blunders. We're going to talk more about some of these estate planning issues that you want to bring to light, and how Trustee Services can matter. Can you just briefly tell us before we go to break what Trustee Services Group is all about?
Yeah, thank you. Trustee Services Group is what I say is it's open architecture trustee solutions. What I mean by that is really 2 things. One is when selecting a fiduciary, that is a trustee or an agent for power of attorney, there's 3 choices that a family has. One is a family member, and your example with Sally is a really good example of that, and I'd like to tackle that and then show what a solution could have been for Sally's hypothetical situation. The second is a professional trustee, and what Trustee Services Group is a national network of professional private trustees. And the third option is a corporate trustee. Now, the difference, I also work with corporate trustees all across the country. Many people, when they think of a corporate trustee, they think of a large institution that's impersonal, that loves to get invited in to be the fiduciary so that they can manage your wealth the way they want to do it. That's not my corporate trustee model. My corporate trustee model, and is true with all of my solutions, is that we are intentionally designed to not manage wealth, even the corporate trustees. So our model is specific to allow the family to retain the wealth advisors that they already have relationship with, that knows the family, and keep them in play and keep them engaged in the context of the trust estate.
Wow. So limiting a lot of the conflicts of interest and such. So, Steve, we got to go to break here. So excited to have you elaborate more on that and some of these other questions when we get back. This is Justin, Retirement Journey, Talk 1370. Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. You can call us live at 512-390-1370 or send us questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. If you've got a question for Steve Marken, author of Trustee Handbook, founding principal of Trustee Services Group, you can give us a call and ask Steve. Here's your opportunity. You can find Steve at trusteeservicesgroup.com. And today we're talking about thriving on trusts and how you can set up a proper estate plan so that your wishes are going to become realized and things are going to be the way you want them to be beyond the grave, right? And Steve, before we went to break, we were talking about your services there at Trustee Services Group And you told us that you had a couple of solutions maybe for Sally, the individual, the couple that came into my office. What would you say to them?
Right. So in Sally's situation, what happened is the family put Sally, one of the siblings, and presumably a beneficiary of the estate, in that trusted fiduciary role. As you indicated, you only had one side of it. But nevertheless, whether there was impropriety going on there or not, the simple naming of that family member in that trusted role and spot created all kinds of family tension.
Absolutely.
And you and I have worked with countless families in the construct of their estate, and there's not one that I've worked with, and I'm sure not one that you've worked with, that would ever intentionally want to go and disrupt the family dynamics and make those relationships worse.
No.
And yet that was an unintended consequence. And just because I've seen this so many times, what happens is the family will usually go and they'll put either the oldest or the most trusted member of the next generation in that role. And what happens is, I could almost assure you, in fact, I'll give you a little statistic, 95% of estates have a family member in that trusted role.
Wow.
And yet, as I poll attorneys, when I talk to them, they would say 99.9% of those folks that are put in that role really don't have the time to dedicate to that, nor do they have the knowledge and understanding as to what they really need to do.
Wow.
And so a solution for that family could have been really two things. As I indicated earlier, Trustee Services Group, there's only three solutions for a trustee: family member, private professional, or corporate. In that family member context, what Trustee Services Group can do is come on alongside that family member trustee and dedicate the time as well as the experience to make sure that that trust and estate is properly administered. The family member is still legally responsible, but we're there to serve them and make sure that it's done correctly.
Kind of like a consulting relationship or something.
Consulting, right? With admin.
With admin, okay.
With admin to it. I'll tell you, I call myself a recovered attorney. I don't practice law anymore, used to for a number of years. And I used to be on the litigation side of things, civil litigation. And a little secret, when people have an issue and they're upset about something, in this case, let's say that you're a beneficiary and you're upset about the trustee who happens to be a family member, if they get real upset, what they do is they go to an attorney. And legally, in every state, the trustee, the fiduciary, is obligated to provide an accounting, at least annually, to the beneficiaries. Mm-hmm. Most oftentimes, the trustee, who's a family member, is not doing the accounting at all.
They don't have the time.
They don't understand it.
They don't understand how. Right.
So what happens is the disgruntled heir goes to an attorney, and the attorney, the first thing he does, I call the soft probe. The attorney will simply go and write a letter to the trustee and says, "Hey, trustee, I'm representing this family member. Provide to me an accounting." And if that trustee cannot provide that accounting in a timely manner, then the attorney is like a shark, smells and feels blood in the water, and will take that case because he knows that there could be some liability there. And we'll take it on for a contingency fee basis because likely they're going to get something. To paint a different scenario, if the family member trustee had the accounting, so let's say had somebody from Trustee Services Group doing that for them, the call comes, we've got the accounting. But more importantly, what we've been doing on a regular basis is providing that accounting, providing that communication to the beneficiaries. So ultimately, the beneficiaries don't start fighting amongst themselves.
Right, and the manager, the trustee that was provided with that power or given that power, can lead their life and not be so burdened by all of these things, and not feel like if they get a letter, and they could be 80 years old, 85 years, right? And in some cases, this could be very scary. I know. Yep. You get a letter from an attorney. I don't care what it says. A lot of people are going to look at that and think, I'm getting sued. I need to lawyer up myself, and I guess my family member over there really hates me or something, right?
And that's the thing. They're going to have at the very least, some great anxiety and very likely some cost in just addressing this conflict. And nobody wants that when they put their estate together.
No, and that's Steve Marken, author of Trustee Handbook, founding principal, Trustee Services Group. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Retirement Journey with Justin Fort, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way, all the way. I'm Justin, and remember, you can call us live at 512-390-1370 if you've got a question for Steve Marken. Feel free to give us a call, and we'll put you on the air. You can also send us a question or email to ask@fortwm.com, and we'd love to have those. Now, Steve, what you were just talking about is how Trustee Services Group, and so there are resources out there for accounting, admin, to kind of take the burden off. And I'll tell you real quick, recently I had an individual, won't name names, but had an individual come to my office that just told me that, this is just such a burden to handle this, was in this same situation. Really, really good woman. I mean, really giving, really charitable, really just a sweet person, was in tears about how difficult this was, how, it took up all of her time. She felt like, and I asked her, what is it that takes up the most of your time with respect to this? And she says, well, I don't know. It's just all of the little things. It's just all of the filings and all of the all of that. So, this is a problem.
It is, and it's just like anything, Justin. Investments, you know how complex that world is. That's the world in which you live. There are those that try to do it themselves, but how much time do they really have to dedicate to it? And it's usually, especially in this area of being a fiduciary, it's a matter of first impression. They've never done it before, and so now they got to figure it out. Instead, if you work with a professional that does this on a daily basis, something that's very intimidating and very complex to most is rather easy to a professional that does this every single day.
Wow.
And Steve, built-in efficiencies.
Steve, can I make a quick analogy? Just reminding me of something. I used to mow my lawn every Saturday or Sunday. And I would spend, it looks like it's going to be easy. I get out there, but it inevitably would take me maybe 2 to 3 hours. Got a big yard, right? And I'm pushing the mower quickly, right? But this is a good analogy because now I'm on the radio on Saturday, right? We're here live. I work during the week. I want to be home to spend time with my children, my family. It's not worth my time to go out and mow the lawn, even though I know how to do it.
Right.
And we're not talking about something as simple as mowing the lawn here, right? Right. And, for me to pay the whatever it is, $30, $50, for folks to come out and do my lawn, I'd have to ask my wife. She handles a lot of this stuff. Whatever it is, she said, you're not doing it anymore because we don't have you in the house enough and you work enough already. We're going to get some other professionals to come out here and do it. And that's the key, right? That's what I talk about. This is what you should be, as you're listening to this, you should think about the things that you want to do in your lifetime that you want to spend your time on. When you're retired, you don't want to work anymore, and you're going to want to travel and do those things that really you're passionate about, that you want to spend your time on. Yeah. But if you're loading yourself up with this and that to do every day in and day out, and you can't go travel the globe, you can't pour your heart and soul into whatever the charities or community services that you're doing because you're too busy trying to save 1% or 0.5% on some asset somewhere, and you may or may not even be doing it the right way. Why sacrifice your time and your life to save a little bit of money and potentially create blunders and issues moving forward? And that's definitely a case for bringing in other professionals.
Absolutely. Justin, I wholeheartedly agree with that comment. Another thing, too, related to working with professionals that will give you freedom to enjoy life is the type of professionals that you work with. This whole conversation this afternoon, this morning, is about a trustee who's a fiduciary, which a fiduciary means they have the legal obligation to do that which is right for the benefit of those they're serving, the beneficiaries, the client.
It's a very high standard.
Very, very high standard. And frankly, if they breach that duty, there is some personal liability that attaches
Oh, we have all heard of Macaulay Culkin and some of these other cases in the past where that fiduciary duty even was breached by a parent.
Absolutely.
And, Steve, we're going to talk about these pitfalls, these mistakes that I've got here from this Forbes article when we get back. We're going to start off when we get back from this break by talking about how or whether or not estate plans are only meant for the wealthy. And that's the first topic we're going to talk about when we get back. Again, this is Justin. You're listening to Retirement Journey, Talk 1370. This is Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. You can call us live at 512-390-1370 or send us questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. We're visiting with Steve Marken, author of Trustee Handbook. He's the founding principal of Trustee Services Group at trusteeservicesgroup.com. We're talking about estate planning, and do you have to be wealthy to have an estate plan? Do you have to have? Is it $500,000? Is it $1 million? Is it $20,000? Does it matter? That question's probably crossed your mind, and let's try to have that question answered. Jennifer, from our article there with Forbes, we've got a comment.
Yes, this is absolutely everyone 18 and older needs an estate plan, no matter his or her net worth, says Wendy Witt, Director of Wealth Counsel's Advisors Forum, a community of estate planning attorneys. If you want to have control over your life and drastically reduce the burden on your loved ones, you need a written, legally documented estate plan.
What say you, Steve?
I wholeheartedly agree and thank her for that comment. I've unfortunately, like her and probably yourself, I've seen some really sad endings to families and situations where, in fact, there was this one in California. It was a couple that had been together for, I think it was 35 years. Both of them had been earlier divorced. They truly loved each other, but they never bothered to marry. I don't know why that was, but they were together for 35 years.
Wow.
He and Justin and Jennifer, as we started the show, you talked about going on vacation and how people want to get their plans in place before they go on vacation. The reality is, any moment something tragic can happen to us. And that was the case with this lovely couple, together for 35 years, and all of a sudden, he has a brain aneurysm.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
He was still alive, but he no longer had capacity to do anything. He did not have an estate plan in place. And so what that meant, very possibly for his beloved partner, was that she wasn't going to get anything. It was going to go intestate. That means that the state decides who gets his stuff.
Oh, wow, that's sad.
That was certainly not his intent by anybody, would imagine. And you think of how tragic that is, this woman that they gave so much to each other, and now she's going to lose everything, whereas clearly he would have wanted to support her. So I do think it is important it's kind of like retirement planning, right? The earlier you get it done, the better results can be.
Right. We want to plan for things that are likely to happen in the future.
Yeah.
Even though we don't know the future, we want to have plans put in place in the just in case scenarios, but also in the most probability, case scenarios where, with minors, as you've got minor children, Jennifer and I do, so we're very aware that guardians have to be named, and the state would have to go through that process. And I visited with an estate planning attorney, really great lady here in Austin, and she does these programs where she educates other financial professionals on how this stuff works. And you'd be surprised at, obviously how many financial professionals don't understand the estate planning side of things, hence that's why we refer people to estate planning attorneys.
Right.
But she said that one of the most important things is to make sure that the titling is correct with a lot of these accounts that folks have, and if there's a trust that's going to be set up, that can really aid in distributing wealth to minors that are not legally able to take control of certain types of accounts. So definitely, you don't have to be wealthy to be concerned about that. There may only be, $100,000 or $50,000, but either way, if you want that to go to your minor children, you have to have something set up so that they have access to that, and there's someone there that you designate that will give that to them as they need it.
And Justin, that is such a great comment, and it really doesn't have anything to do with age. The purpose of a trust is really to control, and it is a tool of control. And so people want to go and they want to pass their estates on to their loved ones. And yet oftentimes we have loved ones that are ill-equipped to receive a large sum or even a modest sum. Mm-hmm. They may have spending problems. They may have substance abuse problems. They may be young. And I can tell you this from experience, that when somebody that is really young and receives an inheritance at a young age, there is nothing that will kill ambition than money. And most families don't want to do that.
Right.
And so the whole thinking of not who to give the money to or the assets to, but when and how much, those are very complex questions. And a trust allows for you to control that, to have it given in the way you would like it so that it will ultimately benefit and not ruin the beneficiaries. And really the question that you had too was, is there a size estate that requires estate planning? Absolutely not. What you want to do is you want to have your wishes in place so that when that time comes, things are taken care of. I lost my father this past September, and he had cancer. And I can tell you my family did have their estate together. And I'll never forget the day when we got the news that he had stage 4 lung cancer, that it spread to his brain. What we did, Justin, because we had our estate together, and we didn't know we didn't know that he was that ill before that moment. We went to Steamboat Springs and had a great time, and that remains one of the best family memories we've had. And we were able to do that because he had his affairs in place.
Wow, so important. And that's Steve Marken, author of Trustee Handbook, founding principal, Trustee Services Group. You're listening to The Retirement Journey with Justin Fort, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way, all the way. We'd love for you to give us a call. We are live, 512-390-1370. Ask a question or make a comment. Add to the discussion here. And Steve, very touching story. And of course, as you put it, the reality was that the time was so precious, is what I'm hearing you say, that things were in order, so that didn't have to be worried about. And I know that for many people, one of the things they think about is funeral arrangements and all of that. Of course, that's high on the mind of planners. My clients that really like to plan, they've got that handled. They know where it is, when, so their beneficiaries and their loved ones can properly grieve and celebrate their life and not worry about these details that are really kind of business oriented almost, kind of administrative. So let's move on to mistake number 2. This is from this Forbes article. Thinking your finances are too simple for an estate plan. Too simple. I don't have a lot. I just have the house, a car, right? So why do I need an estate plan? And from this article, it says that the reality is that no one's life is as simple as it seems, and even if it is, you should still consider putting protections in place to ensure that your wishes are known. Many people may assume that their financial or family situation is so straightforward that they don't need to draft formal documents like a will and testament. We've talked a little bit about this already. I think this is obvious, but you know what? Maybe you don't. Out there, you may. I hope you have these things updated, but often I find that maybe it's been years. Maybe you did set this stuff up, and it's good to review these documents every so often. Every so often, we do find that so and so's beneficiary that shouldn't be there, from way back when, is still on a life policy. Or still on an IRA or something from maybe even a previous marriage, and it's kind of like one of those. you didn't take her off, or and well, good thing we're finding it now. Right.
I have a case exactly that thing happened. The gentleman, it was a second marriage, had a 401k plan, and he had his daughter on the beneficiary designation. He married this woman. They were together for, a great number of years. He never bothered to, or he actually went to an attorney to upstate the estate, and she also had kids. Because they had been together for so long, they wanted to even out the estate distribution, and ultimately what he wanted to do with his 401k plan, which is, as you well know, does not transfer by way of trust, but transfers by way of the plan document and the beneficiary designations that he put on there. And so he went to the attorney and said, please go and change that beneficiary designation for me. And what happened is they didn't.
You can't.
Death occurred, and then all of a sudden all that money, and it was a pretty significant amount of money, is going to the stepdaughter, that was clearly not the intent. And so that family to this day is going through some litigation, and it's fractured.
Yeah.
He didn't want that for his beloved widow, nor did he want that for his daughter or his stepkids.
Wow. So we want to make sure that you're not making these types of mistakes. And, if you need some help, some guidance, some direction, you want us to take a look at your situation, maybe give you some good references to some estate planning attorneys that can really help you, that have your best wishes in mind. And also trustee services. Maybe you have a trust set up. Maybe you are the trustee and you need some assistance. We can help you get in touch with professionals and specialists like Steve Marken here that can really help you and improve your life and improve your situation. So make sure to give us a call if you'd like. They're at 512-433-6492. That's our office line. Of course, during the week at Fort Wealth Management, as you know, I'm a financial planner. I work with clients just like you day in and day out. We handle these types of concerns, and we want to make sure that you're living life the way you want to, with the health, wealth, and freedom that you need. We want to make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to do, that you're doing it the best way possible. My job as a planner is really your interest ahead of mine. My job is to make sure that if there's a way to do what you're doing, a way that's better, I'm going to present that to you, show it to you, and then you have the decision to make as to whether or not you want to do what's best for you or your family or not. You always have that choice. And of course, we do have free consultations that we offer. We do these seminars that we do. We've been predominantly doing them on Social Security. That's a really hot topic right now, but there's a wealth of other information that we'd love for you to be able to get from us and through the relationships that we have with these professionals like Steve Marken. Now, Steve, third mistake, putting off estate planning for too long. According to the Rocket Lawyer poll, 57% of Americans say their excuse for not having a will is that, hey, I just haven't gone around to making one. Unfortunately, the term better late than never doesn't apply to estate planning, obviously, and so you for your own peace of mind, consider doing something. Right? Wouldn't you? What would you say?
Let me comment on that, but first let me go back to what you just said before that common mistake there, Justin, because
Sure.
you said you're a financial planner, but I want to clarify something. You're not just a financial planner, and I've seen this many, many times. People out there, there are many folks that call themselves a financial planner, but there's differences between financial planners. But what is a financial planner? You are a fiduciary.
That's correct.
You are a registered investment advisor with the SEC, and that is very different than let's say a broker who's really a salesperson. There's a significant difference between those two types of, quote, financial advisors. You have that higher standard where you have to go and are legally obligated to do that which is in the best interest of the client. So I just wanted to make sure that our audience knew that you subject yourself to the highest standard there is in the investment services industry.
Well, thank you for clarifying that and the shameless plug. But you know what? Really, Steve, it's true. People need to know who they're working with and what duties we do have for them. It's only fair for everyone to understand the pros and cons to working with anyone and who they're working with and what their intentions really are. Obviously, that's going to lead to the best decisions. Now, we're going to go to break. We've got a number of other mistakes that we don't want you to make. That's why we want you to stay tuned. We're visiting with Steve Marken. And again, this is Justin Fort, Retirement Journey, Talk 1370. This is Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. You can call us live at 512-390-1370 or send us questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. We're visiting with Steve Marken, author of Trustee Handbook, founding principal of Trustee Services Group. You can find him at trusteeservicesgroup.com. And we're talking about estate planning and some of the common mistakes and things you need to know so that your family can live in happiness, obviously, and enjoy the assets that you leave to them without squabbling, without having animosity, and without the undue burden of administrative issues and filings and dealing with attorneys and all kinds of things that can come up. Steve, I didn't allow you to finish before our break your thought on putting off estate planning for too long, but would you mind go ahead and...
Yeah, we've kind of hit on that earlier a little bit about, you just never know when life is going to happen, mm-hmm. and something really bad can occur. And so it gives that peace of mind knowing that it's in place, that allows you that freedom to go ahead and live life. But the other thing, too, Justin, is that I've seen this, unfortunately, where life does happen and there is that accident or death is imminent, and the family, instead of being together, they have to go and they have to meet with their attorney, they have to meet with the financial planner, they have to meet with those trusted advisors to put the plan in place. And it's already a very extremely stressful time at that moment, and then to have to take care of business like that, to me it's sad. Instead, just get it done early, get it done now. Then you can go on and live. And then I do recommend working with a financial planner like yourself, because what happens is life changes. People change, circumstances change. And so what happens is when you work with a good financial planner, you're meeting with the clients at the very least annually. And so you're understanding when life changes. And so when things happen, then you can also go and suggest that, I think that you really need to update your estate.
And Steve,
the law that's changed.
We have a caller that has a question or comment. Let's go to Stork in North Austin. Hi, Stork. How you doing?
Yeah. My first name is Lee.
Lee.
Got a question. I'm 66, and I recently moved to Austin. All my family and all my buddies are spread, all over the country. I'm trying to develop a plan, but, there's nobody here in Austin that I would trust nor even know or anything like that. And my family's, my brother and sister are older. They don't want to do it. The nephews and that are still working. Really, I don't know who to have to do this thing. There's no good choice.
Yeah, Lee, do you have a financial advisor that you're working with locally in Austin?
No, and the estate, at most is $20,000, counting everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can work with a professional fiduciary like my firm could certainly help and be in there to serve as that fiduciary. And really, the thing that you got to be careful of is that should something happen to you, let's say that you get an illness and you can't handle your affairs anymore. Well, life is going to go on, and you still have, you got to keep your financial boat afloat. And so that's the importance of naming that fiduciary, let's say just as a power of attorney, a springing power of attorney that can step in and then make sure your financial boat is afloat while life goes on for you.
And Lee, also if you need a couple of good references, some estate planning attorneys, we have a few. If you'd like to either hang on or I'll get if you give your phone number to our board op here, I can give you a call after the show if you'd like, and then maybe give you some names and you can go check them out. We do normally we can find a free consultation or something for you. And I would imagine that that might be able to help you. So thanks a lot, Lee, for the call.
Wait a second.
Yeah, sure.
Wait a second. The problem we're having is, who handles the body? Say I'm, dead at the house unexpectedly, and also who divvies up all this stuff? I got a will I'm working on. Who's supposed to get it? But who's going to do the thing?
Well, you've got an executor that you're going to have to name, usually inside the will.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Nobody wants to do it.
Right. And how would you answer that question, Steve? Can we get a professional executor to help with that?
Yeah, in Austin there should be some professional fiduciaries, private professional fiduciaries that would serve in that capacity as executor. Unfortunately, my firm does not have a presence in the Austin area, and when it comes to being an executor, that's a little bit different than being a trustee. A trustee is a lot of assets can be handled remotely, because so much stuff is done online now. What happens, though, with an executor, when death occurs, the first thing the executor needs to do is secure the assets, most importantly the house, and, of course, take care of the body. So to have somebody that's local there is pretty important. What I would do, I would certainly go back to Justin because he's much more connected in the Austin area. Circle back with Justin, and I'm sure he'll be able to contact or connect you to at least somebody that can point you in that right direction for a professional fiduciary.
Right. And Lee, just know that the folks that we work with, we don't receive any kind of kickbacks from them. We have no incentive, really. We just want to make sure that our clients are taken care of and you're taken care of. So be more than happy to point you in some of the right directions, but definitely we can get that taken care of for you. There are options out there.
Got a comment for you on your show. This is fabulous. It sure beats that Steve guy. All you guys to do is sell something and gives you no information.
Now, Lee, you have to tell everyone that I did not pay you to say that.
No, they didn't pay me. I listened to Steve, and as soon as I hear him on the radio, it's BORING, and I changed the channel.
All right. Well, I have to have no comment on that. Hey, thanks a lot, Lee. We really appreciate your call, and we will be in touch with you, and I'll be more than happy to try to help you sort some of this stuff out.
Okay, great.
Thanks so much, Lee.
Number?
Oh yeah, our board op will get your number, and then we'll actually reach out to you and give you a call.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. All right. Well, that was interesting. It's great to kind of clarify the difference between who's the executor and what's a trustee, how those roles are actually different. That's another common question that we get. The question that Lee had, and we appreciate him calling in and helping us address that. Again, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Retirement Journey with Justin Fort, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way all the way. I'm Justin. You can call us live at 512-390-1370 or send us your questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. We're talking about estate planning, some of the mistakes that we don't want you to make, things that you can do to put people in the position that you can rely on, that have a fiduciary duty, that you can trust as a trustee. I mean, that's why really I believe the name is trustee. You've got to trust them, and you have to have the right person. Sometimes it's easier to make it a family member, but maybe not the right decision. And sometimes I think that people don't realize that there are services like the services that Trustee Services Group provides there with you, Steve. And so it's important to get this information out. And of course, Steve, we want everybody to know that you're the author of Trustee Handbook that they can all get their hands on, right, and read.
If I could comment real quickly there,
sure.
Justin, on that. That's a pretty unique resource for folks. It's really designed for those that are serving in that role or going to be serving in that role of trustee. So it's designed for that family member trustee, and it really is a guidebook. It's there to really help them to do the job successfully. And so it's pretty unique in the marketplace, and I'm happy to give it at my cost if the callers go through you.
Oh, great! Well, that's a very generous offer. We want to make sure that you understand that Steve is now going to give you discount access to this Trustee Handbook if you contact us, and we'll be more than happy to facilitate that transfer, at least as far as Steve's just promised. So we're going to go to break here, and I've got really 4 other mistakes that we need to go through, and we're so out of time, but this is such a great topic. When we get back, we're going to rattle some of these off, have a couple of final thoughts, and we'll be back here in just a minute. This is Justin, Retirement Journey, Talk 1370. This is Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. We are going to wrap up today's show talking about the 4 other mistakes that we have not covered yet with respect to estate planning. We've been visiting with Steve Marken, author of Trustee Handbook and founding principal of Trustee Services Group. That's trusteeservicesgroup.com. That's how you can reach them. And if you want his handbook, of course, Steve has offered that if you give us a call there at our office, 512-433-6492, or call us here at the show, we'll make sure that you can get that through Steve at his cost as promised. Common mistake number 4, neglecting your digital assets. This is a very interesting thing. Just to rattle this off quickly, you've got social media accounts, you've got Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Do you want them deleted? Do you prefer them to stay up in memoriam? We see this sometimes, and I've seen cases specifically where a Facebook account from a friend's father stayed up, and then somehow it was hacked. And then his father, who is deceased, was actually sending, posts and all kinds of things. It was just really devastating for the family. So, aside cybersecurity, do we want these things up? And this is actually property according to the states and the government. So your social media, your email accounts, your digital purchases are real assets, and those need to be managed, and you need to make sure that you specify those. So don't forget those in the will. I'm just moving on here to common mistake number 5 for time's sake. Not preparing for what-if scenarios. We need to take a lesson from the Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout. You always want to be prepared. And we want to make sure that not every reality can be thought of ahead of time, except we do know that marriages can end in divorce. We've got children, loved ones that suffer addictions or challenges. We talked about that earlier in the show, health problems. They can go bankrupt, businesses can fail. So we want to make sure that when you draft up your estate plan, you're using trust, you've got those protections in place in case some of these types of things happen. So working with a great estate planning attorney is very important for that. Common mistake number 6, forgetting about man's best friend. This is from that Forbes article again. So we don't want to forget about Fido, and you can take care of your dog rather than leave it to a shelter or something, or be left to be euthanized. People can set aside monies inside of trusts so that those trust funds are actually going to be used for Fluffy or Fido, right? Common mistake number 7, not putting enough thought into naming a trustee. And that's really what we've been talking about today. And this is a real big one. I know for you, Steve, it is name the person who is most likely to be up for the task. This is, people also fail to consider professional or corporate trustees. And that's what we're talking about today. And that's what you do there at Trustee Services. Can you give us kind of some parting thoughts here, Steve? Because we're just about out of time.
Yeah, just a real quick parting thought. 2 of them. Don't delay. Get it done, just for peace of mind. it is very important, I think, with our caller, one of the first questions I asked is, are you working with a financial advisor? I think that is really, really important because, again, you're a specialist. You keep up with the changing world, the changing market. And so to have that member who's also a fiduciary, if it's the right type of advisor, on your team is really, really critically important. And then that lends itself to the open architecture structure of naming a fiduciary. That means that open architecture, you decide who's the appropriate fiduciary, either family member, professional, or corporate. And if you want your financial advisor in place in the context of that trust estate, Trustee Services Group can help you do that to serve whatever that fiduciary need is as a trustee, and then make sure that financial advisor stays in place. The reason why that's so important is the financial advisor, like I said, you have the bigger picture. You know not just the assets, but you know the story of the family. You know if Junior has some issues because you've heard it. And so that's so important as we steward the estate for that next generation, that knowledge is not lost.
Steve, we've got to get rolling, but thank you so much for your time and coming on the show today. And again, you can visit Steve at trusteeservicesgroup.com. You can give us a call at our office, 512-433-6492, if you've got other questions. I know we had some callers on. I apologize. We just ran out of time. Such a great topic. We need to devote some more time to this in the future, and we will. Just want to thank, again, Steve Marken for coming on today, our callers. And thanks to Matt Alvarez, our board op behind the scenes, making everything happen, choosing some of this great music we get to listen to. And again, we will see you next week, 12:30 to 1:30, same time, same channel. We're going to be talking again about the things that you need to know to make sure that you've got the retirement of your dreams, not making those mistakes. And this is Talk 1370. I'm Justin, and you're listening to Retirement Journey. We'll see you again.